so we're going to move to standards and assessment. Chair Cannon, are you ready for that? Okay.
All right, so number 11.2 is an action item, competency-based learning framework and planning grant metrics. Sarah Young and her folks came and presented these to us. We are moving down the road towards looking how to evaluate competency in our schools, and so we'll be doing 3 tiers of grants: a planning grant, an implementation grant, and an expansion grant. They gave all of this information to us, indicated that there will be a $2 million ask to the legislature in 2019 for competency-based education specific to implementing these. So the Standards and Assessment Committee moved that the board approve the competency-based learning planning grant metrics.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve the competency-based learning planning grant metric. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting is unanimous.
11.3, K3 Early Intervention Software Program External Evaluator. They took us through and showed us the results of the external evaluation of the early software. 11.4 is an action item, R277-495, required policies for electronic devices in public schools. We have been asked to continue this rule. It needs to be continued because it's set to expire in December. But we have asked that they bring back this rule to our committee, and it's on our agenda for tomorrow, because we'd like to make further amendments and so forth. So this vote is just to continue it so that it doesn't lapse, and then the committee will be addressing it with more amendments.
Okay. Thank you.
So the motion is to continue R277-495 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board continue R277-495 on second and final reading. Any discussion? Board Member Lisa Cummins.
I'm going to be voting no on this. There's been some recent research that has come out that the more we stress early reading, the less effective it is long-term, and so I will not be voting for this.
Okay.
This motion concerns with the policies for electronic devices in public schools. There was no motion on the other. We just received a
on the
report.
early, okay, I'm sorry, my fault.
Okay.
I
My
should have
fault.
made that clear, sorry.
I'm sorry, that was my
Okay.
fault.
Well, we're good. Let me repeat the motion for the board, and that is that the board continue R277-495 on second and final reading. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes. Do you have that? Okay, please continue.
Okay, item 11.5, this is Rule R277-910, Underage Drinking Rule, Underage Drinking Prevention Program, which is a new rule. The committee went through the rule carefully. We made several changes to it, and then we approved it on draft 2 as amended on first reading, and we bring it to the board as amended to approve it draft 3 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-910 draft 3 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion? Vice Chair Ellis?
I just wanted, I am concerned about the curriculum the scope of what's in this curriculum, but it's something that we have to push forward. Anyway, I feel some confliction, and I voted to move this forward because they've addressed some of my concerns, but I'm still concerned about, I feel like we went above and beyond the scope of what the legislators asked us to. That's just my personal opinion with this program, because it covers a lot more than just underage drinking. And so, as I've stated in the committee, I'm conflicted when we step into the place of home responsibilities.
Okay.
So I just want to state that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other discussion. I'll repeat the motion before we vote on it, and that is that the board approve R277-910, draft 3 on second and final reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Will the noes be recognized? Do you have that? Okay. Please continue.
Just a note, they didn't bring to us any specific programs. This was a rule to outline how to choose someone to provide the program. So we didn't see specific programs.
Okay, hang on
That-
one sec. Vice Chair Ellis?
Well, I have the curriculum that went through an RFP process for the underage drinking, and if I'm remembering this correctly, this came from the legislature passed a law that we had to create an underage drinking program, and this is the rule governing that. And an RFP process went through to select the curriculum, which that's where I'm conflicted. That's why I voted for the rule, but I'm conflicted with what came out
Okay.
of the RFP process.
All right, I
So,
understand.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the next motion is 11.6 CTE course standards approval. Our CTE classes are meant to be very flexible and to meet the needs of our community's businesses and provide training for students to go out and get these jobs in industry. So they are on a 3 to 4 year schedule to have their course standards reviewed. They are grouped by career pathway each time they're brought to the board. So this time we had business management and entrepreneurship, information technology systems, architectural design, advanced agriculture mechanics, construction trades and manufacturing, and medical forensics and biotechnology. So Thalia Longhurst came and presented these to us, and the committee the committee approved them and moves now that the board approve the CTE course standards as submitted.
Okay, the motion before the board from the committee is that the board approve the CTE course standards as submitted. A discussion to that motion, Vice Chair Ellis.
Yes, I'm concerned with our process here because the CTE aren't subjected to the 90-day public review as all of our other standards are. And so I voted for this, and the public had 30 days between committee and now, but I don't know how many knew that these were up for review as all of our other standards. And so I would like to move that we amend this to submit it out to a public review as we do our other standards, just so that we get more public feedback on this and more communication out for the public. So it'd be an amendment to not adopt them right now, but just subject this to the same type of a public feedback that we do for all of our standards.
So I don't want to craft your motion, but your motion is, your motion would be to,
Just move that these go out. I don't know about the hearings, but just that
Yeah.
they get sent out for a 90-day public comment as we do all of our other standards.
so there would be approval.
So my motion is to amend,
Strike out approve. Rather than approve, to send out.
to send out for a public,
Yeah, so it's not to
Comment period.
approve, it would be
right.
to send
That I
out.
amend to send out for a 90-day public comment period.
So, is there a second on that?
Well, this one said, well, you're tracking, so I was going to try to write it all down, but, so is there a second? So this would be not to, the amendment would be not to approve it, but to put it out for 90-day comment period, public comment period. So we have a second. Okay, well, let's bring, I think it'd be good to have staff come in, invite staff up to talk to this proposed amendment. We have an amendment. We have a second, and it's not to approve this, but to put it out for a 90-day public comment period.
Can't sit and work the buttons at the same time. Talia Longhurst, the Director for Career and Technical Education. We can do whatever your preference is. We're on a time frame, a calendar now. So what that would involve is moving our calendar ahead by 3 months in order to make that 90-day comment period possible, which would really cause for the work to be done now, which wouldn't actually go into effect for another year. So the timeline, what that does is it cuts our timeline so that the standards are prepared about a year and a half prior to them going into effect.
You're speaking to your motion then?
Yes.
Okay.
I just, moving forward, I would like to see some changes to the standards adoption process. I just don't want any of the team to think that I have concerns with, because am very impressed with our CTE programs in general. Not that anything's perfect, but I am impressed with what we're offering to students. I just, in this process of being more open and transparent with the public, I'm concerned that this isn't going under our same process for approval as the rest of the standards. And so if we need to shorten, because this isn't part of our process, shorten it, something, I just feel like being more communicative with the public and sending it out to the, just letting people know these are up, like we do with our other ones. It doesn't necessarily have to be 90 days, but I'd like to see it put into the rotation of all of our standards. I don't think it's right that we don't have that in our process. Our new
Okay.
communication
Okay,
plan. So
there's a handful of board members that want to weigh on this proposed amendment. Board Member Lear.
And I just wanted to ask Talia, my understanding of the career and technical programs is that they're highly specialized and individualized, maybe different than math standards or language arts standards. And I want to see how you would articulate a reason for not doing, because I generally would support that kind of information to go to the public. But is there a rationale for not doing that for these kinds of programs?
So I would agree with your statement. They are very specialized by course and by pathway. One of the things that we do on an ongoing basis, literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we have a process and a tool by which industry members can go in and validate and review our standards and provide feedback for us to make revisions. That is open to the public at any point in time. Folks are welcome to go in and use that tool to rate standards, to provide feedback on any of our standards.
So a quick follow-up to that.
Okay.
I also wondered if, because the standards are aligned with the skill certification that the student will get, if we start, for lack of a better word, or start messing with the standards, is that going to affect the skill certification that is a federal or national, or certification is bigger than Utah?
Right, so that
that
does
right?
affect that timeline. So we wouldn't be able to revise or write tests until the standards are approved. So again, it goes to that timeline. It would push us back by 3 months.
But only pushes back. It wouldn't further frustrate the.
Well, what it would do, again, is it would cause us to be writing standards and tests and not being able to implement those for nearly a year and a half. So then they're already
cost you a
old by
year.
the time we implement them.
Thank you.
Board Member Cannon.
Oh, that was basically my question. I wondered what that, because you said it would be a year and a half, and knowing that these things are changing, every few months, I wondered if that would be a problem, because I like the idea of putting things out to the public also.
Vice Chair Ellis, are you want to speak into your motion again?
Yes, I just, if, I'm okay if this doesn't work out this time, but I would make the plea that we do something where you adjust your timeline so that it can be part of a more public process, because I understand, to the best of my knowledge, that, we follow industry standards and all of that. I'm not trying to say I'm an expert on this, because I am in no way an expert on this, but I still feel that there are people in the public that also may have industry expertise that aren't part of that discussion, that by putting this out to the public, it creates a better.
We would love to have their feedback.
So,
Okay.
so I'm okay to withdraw my motion, but it's part of the body, so I think it has to be voted on, if the timeline doesn't work out.
I think there's consensus
Well-
and with nods and that we'll withdraw your motion. Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board approve the CTE core standards as submitted. So let's take that to a vote. Well, I'm not seeing any discussion, so I'll call it out one more time, that the board approve the CTE core standards as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting is unanimous.
Okay, we move on to item 11.7. This is a new rule, R277-912, law enforcement-related incident reporting. This rule comes about as a response to Senate Bill 198, and it requires the LEAs to report to USBE incidents that involve law enforcement on school campuses during a school-sponsored activity. So these now will all be reported, and USBE will aggregate the data and create an annual report. So we went through and made several amendments and approved it, and now move that the board approve R277-912 Draft 3 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board from the committee is that the board approve R277-912 Draft 3 on second and final reading. Any discussion to the motion? Board Member Belknap.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Janet, what precipitated this rule?
Is Senate Bill 198.
It was 198? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm not seeing any discussion. The motion before the board is that the board approve R277-912 Draft 3 on second and final reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting was unanimous.
Our last item was an information item only, 11.8, where Jody Kaufman came to the board regarding the health standards and gave us a list of definition of terms. And we asked that some things be added, and we'll be reviewing that again tomorrow in our committee meeting.
That concludes your report?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, committee chairs. We are getting closer to catching up on time. So, next on our agenda is, I guess, lunch, it looks like. So we want to quickly come back into here because we'll go into executive session. We'll try to keep everything on schedule. So let's have a break for lunch. Thank you.